Ooh, what's all this? Public telephone. The marvels of modern technology, eh? Well, we might as well give it a try. Let's see, we just open the door and step into the booth, close the door behind us, and if we just dial the numbers... Oh, it's ringing. Hello, Mum? It's me, Bugman. Yeah, I'm calling from a payphone. I know, I haven't called you in ages. I'm sorry about that, but, you know, there's been a bit of a pandemic and I got a little bit sick and I've just been recovering, but it's okay, I'm fine. Don't worry. Uh-huh. Mum, I've got to go. There's a bit of a queue forming. Yeah. Mum, well, it sounds like fun. Maybe I could drive out there. I don't know, maybe not. Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Minecraft The Journey with me, bugmancx. Here we are in Minecraft Beta 1.7_01, and in today's episode we're definitely going to be moving up from this version, not very far, just to the next version, or maybe to the next version after that. I don't know, we'll have to wait and see how much there is to cover in each of those versions. And today we're going to be having a look at a few more quirks to do with the piston. I know there's been a lot to do with the piston in the last couple of episodes, but that's because that's what Beta 1.7 is really all about. So let's go and have a look at one or two little things before we upgrade to the next version. The first thing that I want to take a look at has to do with beds. And I've tried to break the bed before with a piston, but I didn't realize that you need to do it this way. If you place the bed down in front of a sticky piston, look what happens when we power it. Of course, it pushes the bed, but when we unpower it, it retracts the bed, which causes it to break, but also leaves that mysterious half bed block behind. This is such a weird block because you can't see the inside textures of the bed, so I really don't know how I could use this in a build in my world as a decoration block or anything. I still haven't quite figured that out. But unfortunately, it's always going to look like this in front of an ugly sticky piston because as soon as you do any kind of block update, the block disappears. Well, I don't know, but here's kind of something. Here I've combined two beds into one big long bench thing. And I've just done that by placing a bed right at the end of one of these half broken bed blocks here. And it kind of gives the illusion that you've got a long red bench with these two white bits at either end. That actually looks half decent. I do need to have a sticky piston showing itself here, unfortunately. But like I said, that's just unfortunately just what you have to have. Maybe I could have used that in my house somewhere. I might have a think about that. Maybe. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. There we are. I don't think that's too bad, actually. From a distance, it looks quite good. Again, it just looks like a little lazy bed you can just lie down on. And of course, the piston over here, it's pretty hidden. You don't really notice it too much. So I think that that is a good compromise. And actually, this is my favorite bed to use in this area. Anytime I'm about to head out and it turns to nighttime, I always just jump into bed here and have a little bit of a sleep. So now I've got a choice. I guess I can lay my head down this end or this end, depending on how I'm feeling. And I kind of like that. Now, of course, I've shown before that we can use this machine here to duplicate blocks, and it's really a simple operation. All we need to do is come over here and create a little clock, just like that, and place a block right here, and the machine will completely duplicate that block as many times as we like, up to the push limit, of course, but we can just stand here and break blocks, getting as many as we need. But it's also possible, let me just turn that off because it's so loud, It's also possible to use a similar setup to delete blocks. I'm going to have a go at building this redstone and then we'll see if it works. Now, I have no idea why anyone would want to build a machine capable of deleting blocks. It doesn't seem like it serves any particular purpose in this game, but you know, there are always things that are possible, and so we build them. And the way that this works is pretty straightforward. We just have two pistons here, a sticky piston and a regular piston. We have this redstone wire going around here and into this repeater. This repeater has a short delay on it to make sure that this piston fires second, and the power goes around into the back of this sticky piston here. So if I place a block down, let's see what happens. Nothing happens because I haven't powered it yet, but when I do, The piston over here pushes this block, and of course this piston can't fire because there's a piston head in the way. But look what happens as soon as we remove the power. There's kind of a little glitch effect or something, it looks like. Let's have a look at this in slow motion. Oh, that was weird. It kind of creates an upside down piston head and then it gets deleted. Let's have a look at that in even slower motion. Well, look at that. There's something you don't see every day. We seem to have an upside down piston head and two piston heads occupying exactly the same space at exactly the same time. It definitely looks like somehow here the two pistons have fired in exactly the same game tick, and that's causing a kind of race condition between the two pistons, one trying to complete the operation at the same time as the other in exactly the same space. And that's resulted in the wooden planks being deleted, unfortunately. But in order to understand this a little bit better, I think we might want to dive into the mechanics of how the pistons actually work. So this is going to get a bit technical. Let's get ready. Whenever a piston head movement occurs, the game needs to animate it so that it looks as if the blocks are moving from one position to another. Each time a piston needs to extend or retract in whatever direction, whether it's pushing or pulling blocks with it, the game refers to this movement as a stroke. The stroke itself needs to animate the movement and move blocks from one location to another, so there's a lot of information that the game needs to figure out and store in order to complete the stroke. It needs to know things like whether the piston head is a regular or sticky piston, which direction the piston's facing, whether any blocks are being carried by the piston, and what type of blocks they are. This is more data than a regular block can hold, so the game creates a temporary tile entity that's used during the stroke, and tile entities are capable of holding extra data, and they're normally used for blocks like chests and furnaces. When the game performs the stroke, it temporarily replaces the block in front of the piston with block ID 36, also known as the moving piston, and this block's capable of storing all of that data. The stroke takes place over a few game ticks where we can see the animation of the piston and the blocks moving, and the tile entity tracks the progress of that movement with each tick. Once the stroke's complete, the game replaces block 36 either with an air block, a piston head if it was pushing, or if it was pulling a block back with it, it'll replace it with whatever block that piston was carrying. So, now that we know roughly how it works, let's see if we can observe this in action with some slow-mo footage. Here's the basic sequence of events. I've tried to simplify this as much as possible, so there may be a bit more to this technically than what we see here in front of us, but we'll go through it anyway. In this scenario, we have a piston ready to push a gold block forward by one space. First, the piston receives a block update. In this case, it's from a redstone signal. The piston will then test whether it needs to move any blocks with it, and in this case again, it does, a gold block. The game then deletes the gold block and replaces it with a moving piston block ID 36 tile entity, and that includes all of the data it needs, like the piston head type, the direction it's facing, and the block ID of any block that it's carrying. It also stores a value called progress, which tells the game how far along the stroke the piston is. The game increases the progress value over the next few ticks, and the game uses that to figure out which stage of the animation to draw. The game also knows that in our case, the piston was carrying a gold block along with it, so it draws the gold block as part of the stroke animation as well. When the stroke sequence is finally complete, the moving piston's then replaced by block ID 34, the block ID for an actual extended piston head, and the pushed gold block replaces the air block in front of that. If the block's being pulled back, the reverse happens, except that this time the moving piston is replaced with the gold block. Well, I didn't expect to be going down that rabbit hole today, and the pistons are quite a technical block within the game, so, if I didn't get anything quite right, or if you've got any other information that you want to let me know about how they work, then feel free to let me know down in the comments below. But now, I think it's time to do that upgrade I promised. Look at this, we made it to beta 1.7.2, and beta 1.7.2 isn't a very big release. It was released one day after 1.7 and 1.7_01 on the 1st of July 2011. It didn't add any new functionality, but it did address 3 bugs related to pistons, interestingly enough. The first one was crashed worlds now work again, and Jeb said, crashed maps will work after the patch, but you'll have invisible and unbreakable blocks on your old pistons. Right-click to remove them. Ouch. This may have been the same bug or something similar to the one we experienced in multiplayer during the World Tour, but I can't be sure. The second bug fix is pistons that disappeared fixed. Well, I haven't experienced any fully disappeared pistons, so I'm not really sure how to replicate this one, but I guess it's good to know that it's been fixed. And the third one is pistons that caused crashing from multiplayer servers fixed. Again, that's good too, although I didn't experience any of those issues. But since they were the only changes in this version, I think we should move up to Beta 1.7.3, the final version of Beta 1.7. Beta 1.7.3. It seems so strange being in this version because for many people who played Beta, this is pretty much the last version of Minecraft Beta before the game changes forever. And when I say that, I mean it. When 1.8 comes along, it's going to be a very different game. But that's okay, we still have things to explore here in Beta 1.7.3 before we even get to that, before we even need to worry about it. Now there's quite a list of bugs that were fixed in Beta 1.7.3, so let's just pick out a few of these that we've experienced here in Minecraft The Journey. The first is corrected a block duplication bug when using pistons. That's right, unfortunately the piston duplicating machine will no longer work, but that's okay, I only wanted to explore the mechanic, I wasn't planning on relying on that machine. Corrected a redstone torch duplication bug when using pistons. We experimented with that too, but I have no use for it, so it doesn't worry me. Ice blocks are now pushed without causing water streams to break everything. And this is exactly why I needed to get my stairwell done before we upgraded to this version, because I knew that that particular bug would get fixed pretty quickly. Doors no longer create purple particles. Oh, well, that's just a shame. And finally, changed it so that paintings pushed by pistons will pop off. Well, that's a list of all of the changes we know about in Beta 1.7.3, but now I think it's time to shift gears and do some building. Ever since the pistons were added to Beta 1.7, I've been thinking about this little area here. I want to transform it and add a couple of farms that use pistons for automation, and this would be a little bit of an expansion on some farms that I created in the Alpha House area, namely for the reeds or the sugarcane and a wheat farm, which at the moment are all very manual, but I think with the addition of pistons we can update those farm designs and make them a little bit more automated. So I need to transform this area and get it ready to have those farms installed. But first, we've got to talk about these trees because these are original trees and they had all of their leaf types changed around when we updated to Beta 1.2 because these leaf blocks had some of the original leaf decay values set in them. So I don't want to lose all of these leaves. So I'll get my shears out, I think, and trim all of these trees down before we cut all the wood down. And then we should not only have a really interesting array of leaves to add to the collection for future use, but also I think we're going to discover a couple of interesting things along the way about some of these particular leaf types. Well, there's nothing like destroying a bit of nature for industrialization, right? And one of the reasons that we wanted to use the shears to preserve these leaf blocks is because, as we know, these are all original leaf blocks with leaf decay values set in them, and that's why we see different variations all mixed up on this tree. But as we've discussed before, there were actually 4 data values associated with that leaf decay, which means there are actually 4 different types of leaves in each of these trees. Where's a good example? Right here, okay. So we have the spruce, We have the regular, we have the birch, and we have this third unusual one here. And this leaf type we shouldn't normally see in the game. I think that one is data value 3. And the reason we'd not normally see it is because there are no trees that produce this leaf type. So thanks to the leaf decay, we have access to it. And thanks to the shears, we have access to this particular block. So down here, I've set up a little chest. Let me just go down and show you what's going on. And I've sorted out in this chest the 4 different variations that I think that we have. This is data value 0 or no data value 1, 2, and 3. So we have regular, spruce, and birch, and then the 4th mystery type. And as we can see down here, the same thing applies to the saplings. This is the additional type of sapling here, and it doesn't stack with that leaf, with that sapling type there, I should say. So what I've done is I've sorted them out in this chest here, and we can just pop these into our inventory here. And what we should be able to do is go back into this chest and then just shift click them all back into the chest here, and they should auto sort themselves into the appropriate slot. There you go. So we actually only have a handful of the birch leaf type, but we have plenty of these erroneous data value 3 type of leaves here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a stack of each of these, make sure I keep them in the right order. That's not even a full stack, but it doesn't matter. I don't need a full stack. And what I'm going to do is just go over here to the other side of the town square over here, and I'm going to plant some shrubs of each of the 4 different leaf variations because I can, because with the shears I can. So here I've set up these little stumps, and this is where we're going to do it. Let's do it from left to right, and I'll make sure to label these so we know what's going on. So the first type is this one, the regular sapling with the regular wood and the regular leaves. So let's just pop those leaves right on there. The second type is the spruce, so we need to get a tool out, don't we? Let's break that and hello. No, I'm working here. Okay, and we'll pop that down there, and we want leaf type 2, the spruce, and pop that there as well. Now, of course, the third type is the birch. Using my brain at the same time as moving blocks, it never works out well. And the birch is this one here, so let's pop that down right there. As you can see, the color is slightly different to this one, which is a bit more bright. And of course, the 4th one, which is this sapling type, and I've just put the regular wood type here because there is no associated wood variation for this, so we'll just leave it as this particular type. And we'll pop that down right here. And again, as we've seen before, there's a different colorization, which is quite different to that one, and that one, even though all of those leaves share the same texture. So here we go, some little shrubs with all the different leaf variations, now that we've actually got access to them properly. I've done a bit of prep work here, and as you can see, it's starting to come together. And you might remember this design from the Alpha House. This is pretty much exactly the same design as I had out there, but we are going to make a couple of modifications, as I said. So the idea here is that you can plant all of the crops, and then once they've all grown, you can wash the water down, and the crops will all collect down in this area here. And the reason I've got 3 crop beds here, and I haven't got a 4th one installed here, is because this is where we're going to be installing a sugarcane farm. And I don't yet quite know what the design's going to be, but it will be here, and hopefully the sugarcane will just wash down here. But up the top here, as you can see, this is the old method that I used to have to do when I was previously using this farm. Have basically some blocks here that I can just break out, and as you can see, the water will just wash all the way down to the end there, taking all of the crops and seeds with it. However, there is obviously a better way. Let's just turn that one off again. Now that we have access to pistons, as you can see, the piston is capable of holding back water. So what we can do is have them set up like this so that they're blocking the water, and then we can hook all of that up to redstone like I've done with this lever. And as soon as I do, let me just get down here for a better view. As soon as I do, check it out. Beautiful, huh? So we can actually hook up the entire farm to a lever or a button down here somewhere and activate it remotely. And it'll all activate at the same time. We don't have to replace any blocks. As soon as we're finished, we can just raise the pistons again, and I think that is going to be glorious. Well, as you can see, I've installed all of the pistons and the water sources as well, and I've hooked it up to this pressure plate here so that as we stand on it, you can see that the pistons all retract and the water starts gushing down the farm all at the same time. And I've also added a little bit of repeated delay in here so that the pistons don't all activate at exactly the same time. And I think that that just gives it a little bit of an extra visual effect, which looks pretty cool if you ask me. Now, of course, we can have that stay open or closed as long as we like, or we can have it manually controlled. Yet to figure that out really. And I obviously need to do the virgin harvest of this farm as well, because so far it hasn't really yielded any crops because I haven't planted any. So maybe I'll do that and then we'll wrap up today's episode. Unfortunately, I don't have time in this episode to build the sugarcane farm right here, but I'll save that for the next episode so that we can hook this whole system up to be capable of producing wheat, seeds, and sugarcane all at once. And I think it's going to be pretty cool. So let's do one final harvest for the day and see the farm in action. That took ages, but it's finally done. All of the crops are grown. And yes, I did use a little bit of bone meal to help the last few along. But I've been out here waiting for days and days for all of them to grow. And while I've been waiting, I built up this area a little bit. I've added a bit of a wooden walkway here. And I've also added this fence line along here to prevent mobs from being able to climb into the farm and trample the crops, which they're so prone to doing. And this area here was a bit more hilly before, so I decided to carve it all back to about this level so that it's a bit more seamless. But I wanted to leave these trees in place, so I've added some custom roots to them to make them feel like they're a little bit different, bit warpy, bit old, something like that. And yeah, it's all right. So let's head over here. Oh, my keyboard's doing weird things. There are some interesting bugs in this game still. Hopefully that one gets fixed soon. We are going to do the virgin crop harvest. So up here, I've still got my pressure plate, and that's what we use to set off the farm. Let's just pop up here, and I've broken the redstone wire because I didn't want to accidentally set it off or have a mob walk on the pressure plate or anything like that. But are we ready? Let's do this. There it goes, washing all of those crops down. Oh, that's really, really nice. Now, unfortunately, this farm still has that drawback of items falling on those middle walkways there. Maybe I'll fix that one day. I don't know. I'm not too bothered about it. I can just walk up there. I have to replant anyway, so I need to walk up and down that as it is. I'm not sure how long it takes for all of these crops to get to the bottom. I think about a minute, maybe. Actually, a lot quicker now because in a few versions ago, the speed at which items flows down water was increased. And what I was thinking is maybe I should add some sort of redstone timer so that this farm can deactivate itself automatically. Maybe that's something we can look at doing in an upcoming episode. But look at that, we've harvested tons and tons of items. So let's just stand off the pressure plate and the farm should deactivate. And all of that water will stop flowing. Beautiful. Perfect. There it goes. So I wonder how much we can gather up. Let's empty my inventory just to make sure I don't have any of these items on me. And I'll pop down here and let's pick them up. We got quite a few stacks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and a bit stacks, and probably an extra, maybe most of a stack up here as well. So still not a bad harvest. But now I just need to collect up all of these remaining items and replant, and then that's the daily harvest done. Well, I've done the final count, and it is this. It's 3 stacks and 4 of wheat, and then 4 and about 3/4 stacks of seeds, which I'm pretty happy with. Of course, I still need to replant. In the next episode, I'll want to figure out the plans for the sugarcane farm, which should go here, and its drops should all join up to this system here so that we can collect that as well. And well, that's the end of today's episode, so I want to say thank you for watching and a huge and special thank you to my amazing patrons who support me. If you'd like to join my Discord, then you can do that by clicking on the links down below, or check out Patreon if you want to support me. But until the next episode, this has been bugmancx. You've been watching Minecraft The Journey. Bye-bye.